renovation is all the more crucial because you're starting with an imperfect frame, and it's difficult. You'll never make it perfect, and so you've got to have a mindset to understand what are the key differences.
With the renovation also, it's very different to a new build. New builds, everything's expected and fair to it to be straight, plumb and perfect. And that's what we strive for, because you've got that opportunity to do it. Renovations, the majority of the walls aren't straight or plumb, so it's able to work within those boundaries to make it work as best as possible. Like you do have to bend yourself slightly to the fact that it's going to be a lot better than it was, but it depends on how perfect or it can be to, say, a new build sort of thing.
The great thing is that there are ways that it can be done. It doesn't matter what the house is, there are ways to fix it. If it's damp and moldy, then just by putting insulation in, getting in a good ventilation system, making sure the claddings are on a cavity, maybe putting some new windows in so we get a bit more sun into the house. If we're getting buildings where there's overheating, then making sure we put shade in place so that we prevent the overheating. There's a solution pretty much for everything. It's just a matter of sitting down and working with the client and working out what we need to do to come up with a plan.
Renovations can be tricky, but that doesn't mean that they can't be done. We're currently doing a few projects with renovations where we're doing really deep renovations. But look, in saying that, when it comes to ventilation, I believe that all homes need proper ventilation. Depending on the home, depending on the age, would be the system that we would specify. It just means that as a home gets more sealed, more thermally efficient, the recovery of the system works better. The heat recovery of the system works better. So it's not about should we or shouldn't we do it. It's more about what system works best for our home and how best can we get that into our home. There's obviously some homes have different characteristics, and roof spaces and not roof spaces, and spaces for ducting, etc. But the reality is that most of our homes have a lack of ventilation, and heat recovery ventilation is the best way to deal with that. We'll probably be doing some in the region of maybe 10% renos, but in saying that, we do a lot of existing homes, so they may not be doing a full renovation, but they are putting ventilation into their existing property. Older homes, typically people lean towards positive pressure ventilation. Again, it depends on the home, but if you're doing a proper decent renovation and you're looking at things like levels of insulation, air tightness, using Intello wraps, then heat recovery ventilation becomes a must at that point.
With the renovation, it was quite interesting just understanding retrofit, and my motives for not liking it were I just hate peeling back the wall and finding stuff that I didn't know was there and nobody could possibly know, and how do you estimate a fee on something that you can't see and all that sort of stuff. Those are my reasons.
When you pull these houses apart, they do have really good bones. You can see how poorly they've been insulated and built in the past, having that reliance on wood burners and way too hot a heat source. So it is a really nice challenge to keep these. But
it's good to sort of have a base with the renovation to then work from that foundation that's already there, to improve.
I'm just trying to think about what is the biggest thing people do, and I guess that a lot of it does come from, I don't know, my so-and-so friend is a builder or a designer, and they said, let's do this, and they go and get a builder to do it, and they do it, and it's great, but they've missed an opportunity to insulate or, I don't know, put better windows in, and it's just sometimes it's a nightmare to step into those houses where they've done a little bit here and they've put so much money into it. So you don't want to say, I think we should pull that apart again. And so that's heartbreaking sometimes. I do wish people would seek out the right experts and find out, what should I really be doing with this house? Yeah, it can overspend really quickly when you just start with Joe Bloggs' advice.
Renovations is something we get involved with a lot. We get asked for, how can we make this roof that we've got already better? And quite often it may not be an existing membrane roof, it could be an existing steel roof. And there could be issues with that steel roof. Maybe the pitch is too low, it's damaged, it's leaking, it's just old.
If we work on the assumption that the old house is damp, there's mold issues, where, what can we do to it in the first instance to improve it? One is obviously add a decent, efficient heating source, and two is putting in a ventilation system. And so that way you are bringing in fresh air into the building and you're moving moisture out. So that was one of the things they talked about. So that sort of, I hadn't really looked at renovation from a ventilation point of view. I always just looked at it, not necessarily, we're always going to put insulation in the walls and improve the insulation in the roof, and no matter what windows we put in, they'll probably be better than what's there and that sort of stuff. But now you start to look at it as an opportunity to improve the house and make it better.
So there are some challenges with renovating an old home. I guess the first principles are work needs to be done well. And in order to achieve a superhome status for a renovation, there are certain targets that need to be met. One of the more difficult things to achieve is airtightness. So airtightness in an existing home is quite a challenge. And there are ways of going about this, and one of those ways is to strip back the interior linings and to ensure that the joinery, the windows and doors are sealed into the frame. And then there's going to be the challenge of stopping the air movement inside to out. And a blower door test will test ultimately at the end how many air changes there are at 50 pascals and how often that happens per hour. And so to achieve a superhome standard for better in this home, we achieve 2 air movements per hour. In a renovation, that's going to be quite a challenge. It will require an airtight membrane, an tallow membrane on the inside. It will need specific attention around light switches and openings, around bottom plate fixings, ceiling connections. There's a number of things so it's quite a challenge. You've got to have a building company who is committed to that level of detail.